Page 42, to a Charming Senorita. The top of the page, there is a box up there talking about a friend of Tchaikowsky. Tchaikowsky was a very famous composer. And like most people, he had friends too, and I talked about one of them. This is a really lovely piece. I want to talk just briefly about it. There's not a lot to point out here. Hopefully you already understand all these symbols and things you're seeing. If you don't, I would encourage you to go back maybe to the previous book and start there and go through all of that again, both books, that book and this book. However, I'm going to start with the right hand. Now at the beginning of this, you can see that there's 3 flats in the key signature. That means we're in the key of E flat major. I encourage you at this point to go to my scale video on E flat major and do at least the beginner part. It wouldn't hurt to start doing the intermediate stuff, but at least the beginner part, because that will familiarize you with the keys and the notes in this key signature. The 3 flats means we're going to be using at least 3 black notes. So, well, right hand at the beginning. You have a rest on beat 1. Well, that's unusual, but it is. It's Tchaikowsky. Well, no. And just 8th notes, just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so it's 1 and. 1 and is a rest. I should say rest and or 1 and, same difference. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and that's a staccato, and it's an important staccato. This has this pattern throughout where you have the slur of these 8th notes ending with a staccato. So, and then a rest after this, after the staccato note, and that's important too because it sets the rhythm up. So second measure is 1 and rest and 4 and. The first line like that. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's really the rhythm for the right hand pretty much through the whole thing. It's just different notes. Now, you end the first line here on second finger on the B flat, but take a look at the next line. B flat there is 3rd finger. You have a quarter rest, you can do it. Just come down 1 key. But when you get to the second measure and the half note, 2nd finger, now when you're going on, it's 3rd finger on the A flat for the 3rd measure. And they're telling you in the last measure of the 2nd line to do 4th finger. That's preparing you for what's coming. This keeps you from having to use a thumb on a black key. For instance, in that 2nd line 3rd measure here, and in the last measure, if I use 2nd finger, because that's what's on it, well, then I would tend to have to go down to the E flat with a thumb. And by using 4th finger there, I can use 2nd finger. I like that finger. There's nothing wrong with using the thumb. It's just a style of fingering, if possible. We tend to avoid using the thumb on a black key if we don't have to. I mean, it's not an absolute rule. It's just a style of fingering. And I like it. I use it quite a bit. Now, 3rd line, same as the 1st. And the 4th line is similar to the 2nd, except maybe for the very end when it ends. You have to cross over the thumb to get 2nd finger on the E flat there at the end. And that whole note is tied to a quarter note, so it's 5 counts total. And then you lift up. See, piece of cake, right hand's nothing. Left hand, you got pretty much the major chords. So it starts out with this chord, 5/7 chord. And then at the end of the line is this chord. And that's pretty much it for the left hand. It's just got to get the rhythm down. 1, 2, and 3, 4. So in the 2nd measure, left hand. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and rest forever now. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and we're resting again. Okay. So you put the hands together. It's kind of neat. The only really bit of trickiness on here, as far as I can tell, is like, and it happens all over, but it's like in the 2nd measure. On the 1st beat, when you put the hands together, staccato in the right hand, but not in the left. Don't play the left hand staccato. I mean, if interpretive wise, since they don't tell you anything, you could probably play the left hand staccato throughout. It's up to you, but as far as learning it the way it's written, and that's what you need to do first, because you can always alter it later. That first note in the second measure is here. The left hand stays down, but the right hand is a staccato. So be sure and do that at first, and then later on maybe you want to turn the left hand a long staccato, not necessarily a short staccato, but a long staccato. You're kind of bouncing along as you go. They don't do much of anything with dynamic. They say medium soft, and medium soft is for the melody, and that's pretty much it. That's all they give you. There's a few accents. So you see the half notes are accented in the right hand. Go ahead and give them a little accent, not a big accent, just a little accent. So you can kind of play around with these dynamics a little. Just kind of get, how do you feel getting louder and softer? You know? For instance, in the first measure, I want the music to flow. It's not just notes. So I would tend to maybe get just a hair louder as I go through those eighth notes to that D. And that half note is where we're after. That's where it is. So this, at the beginning, it's, and then I might, don't exaggerate it, you don't get loud. I mean, this is a gentle piece, and after you've learned it and you play it through a few times, you'll start feeling these dynamic changes, and you just kind of play it the way you feel it. And that's really what the dynamics is. They don't give you much of anything, so you pretty much leave it up to you and your interpretation of what you're going to do with the dynamics. When we do with the play with me, as usual, I ignore all that and I just play the notes because I want you to hear the notes. They say at the beginning of this, there's a where the tempo is supposed to be. It says con grazia. Con is with, and grazia is with grace. Con with grace, whatever that is. That's not a tempo. That's a feel, a mood. So I guess if you feel that mood, that'll tell you the tempo. Doesn't matter. We're going to go really slow. You can do that grace stuff on your own. I'm going to give us 4 counts. Let's try this out. Right hand here. Left hand here. There we go. 1, 2, and ready and go and rest and.